All right, what up, everyone? We are USfanTV, a sometimes fan show for soccer fans in the United States. With me, well, I am Chris. With me as I don't know, at oh wait, my computer didn't also have audio running. Um, I am Chris. With me, as I don't know, call it usual, is TJ, or unusual as the case may be. Hat
You
guy
know,
remains in, I don't know, what do we call it, a contract situation.
it
Uh,
I,
we've
you know, we
held this
always, we
off for
always,
like a week now, waiting for it. He says, "Oh, I'll do it, I'll do it, I'll do it," and then he doesn't show up. So we just said, "Fuck it, we're
we,
doing it."
the bottom line is we didn't pony up enough money, so that's what it comes down to. We try to give him the outs. We say he's on assignment somewhere, but the reality is it's a contract dispute. He's holding out for more money than what we have. And looks like we got so. I don't know. So I think I am becoming more usual than unusual at this point when the
Yeah.
few times we do this. So,
Well, I, I,
um,
I just thought by our general schedule, maybe we're all unusual. Anyway, tonight we'll
well,
be
there's
wrapping
that.
up the US's World Cup. We'll discuss Triple G's performance, the general US performance. Um, where does US soccer go from here in terms of a manager, his issues with Gio, and what does that mean? I'm sure we'll have our predictions for Sunday's final. Um, and of course, we'll probably touch on some things, I guess, some other things. But first, we should probably open up, just kind of comment on the sort of poetic and tragic death, or tragic and perhaps poetic death of Grant Wall. Part of the reason we've like really been pushing Pat to show up tonight is Pat has a genuine Grant Wall story, and he was gonna share it, and like he was on board, and every day part of the reason I'm sharing all this openly is that you guys can then like go tweet him, Patrick McCraney, or is it Pat McCraney? I don't remember which one it is,
It's
on
Patrick.
Twitter. You guys go bother. Go let him have some shit for not showing up, because yeah, he had an actual story, a genuine like goodwill story about Grant Wall. Um,
And Lord knows we've made enough fun of him on this show over the years, and not that he ever watched. I'm sure he never did, but
yeah, yeah.
we're always willing to make fun of Grant Wall. But the bottom line is, the first thing that came to mind, it was he was the preeminent voice of U.S. soccer.
Yeah. I mean,
Beginning,
since
middle, and
since
end of
the
story.
since the Beckham experiment, like, and that book is still great.
It is,
It
and
it gave insight that I never would have expected, and then yeah, to see him turn into a true, call it star uh, of soccer journalism in the U.S.
well,
And
but was he was already, though, a star journalist in the United States.
kind of, I
With his
guess,
time
but
with
like to
SI,
become like, I don't know, to become like a true, call it national star, or perhaps even international based on
sure,
that level. Um,
yeah. I mean, when he started doing coverage, basically the, for lack of a better term, the gossip during the Champions League coverage on Fox. That's when he became, like, I want to say, more of a household name than he already was. But he was already a pretty damn solid
yeah,
writer
yeah, yeah.
who
Oh yeah. I
did
mean,
who
he'd
did
already
college
been with
basketball, but
SI for a while. Yeah.
right for 20. I want to say it was 20 years almost, and then he left because he left Fox. I
Well,
know
not.
because of the World Cup in Russia, and that was just it. I mean, say what you will about Grant Wall, I didn't always agree with some of the things he said, some of his soccer opinions, and I don't think he would have had it any other way. But the dude stood up for what he believed,
Yeah.
and he did. And I mean, he got roughed up. He got harassed by Qatari security for wearing a pride shirt in honor of his brother. Um, you know, he did the right thing. It's amazing. You always hear like all these glorified, when people pass unexpectedly, you always get the best stories. But the thing is you never heard bad stories about him.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
how many people do you know that you follow on Twitter in the soccer fringe media group? That not wacko fringe, but just people who are small time, kind of like what we do, that were writers that had stories about Grant.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the first when the Cooligans went to Fubu TV. He was their first guest.
Hmm. Hmm.
he always was looking to build soccer in this country, and I think
Oh,
he understood this is
Pat and
how
I had
it
an
was
idea
done.
to bring him on here years ago. We just didn't think we were big enough at the time, and then things happened, and we kind of killed ourselves. But that's beyond the
Well,
point. Um, but yeah, like we had thought about trying to do that. Um, but anyway, I guess the part that is I don't know, as heartwarming as something like this can be is he had fallen in love. Like he always said, he fell in love with soccer. He went to Argentina and saw Maradona play. He considered that like his like he said the greatest player he'd ever seen was Maradona. Messi was like the closest thing to Maradona, which is kind of, I guess, it's part of why I'll give away what I want to happen on Sunday. It's part of the reason I want Messi to win a World Cup is he's the next thing to God as far as I'm concerned. If he can win this World Cup, I think that fully cements his legacy as even better than Maradona. And even that, even as I say it, and as someone who I think I'm pretty solid in believing it, but even as I say it, I still think like, man, it still seems wrong to say it. But anyway, not to make this about me, like he went to Argentina. He fell in love with the sport. He went to like Boca Juniors games, and he talked about falling in love with it, and that like Argentina was kind of another, maybe even his like heart's team. Like like the U.S. was his nation's team, but like Argentina had a pull on him. There's something poetic about he died watching Argentina qualify for a World Cup final. He died watching Messi do Messi shit. Um, if this is your life's work, like it's not a terrible way to go. It sucks that like you didn't live a long life, you didn't get to experience a lot of things, but like you went out doing what you loved, and I don't know. There's something
yeah, yeah. I mean,
there's
the
something
only reason,
romantic in that,
right there,
in the
there,
in the
and
old fashioned sense of the word.
it was interesting to see the scope of that because I came out. I was at training last Friday. I saw it, reached out to you and Pat, and you were both like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah,
And it was based on his brother tweeting a
yeah.
conspiracy that there was more,
It,
and it turned
it's
and it turned out to be. And then as it turns out, the Qataris did Qatari shit that they didn't have an AED
yeah.
even around. And then just to come find out, as bad as that is, that they should have had the proper medical equipment around. AEDs are supposed to be everywhere. They are in the United States. Comes to find out, his aorta burst, and that really was about it. And it was always, you always kind of wanted to wait to see what his wife said, because she is one of the top physicians in the world. So it's one of those, you wanted to hear that, and it turned out to be just a tragic accident, a tragic health issue. Couldn't have been prevented. Was probably there for years. And soccer's U.S. soccer is in a lesser place because he's not here.
I think that's
But there
fair.
will always be, you can, I mean, like I said, to it, anybody who follows anything with U.S. soccer has come across something Grant has written, said, whatever. They all had opinions on his writing, and there are days you loved him, there are days you hated him, but he will be missed. I mean, there's no question about it. There's somebody to fill his void. It's going to be hard to do. So
Here, here. Um, do you have Ted Lasso on in the background? I see the comments. All your screens are too small. I can't tell what's behind you.
yeah, I do have Ted Lasso
Okay,
on in the background.
okay, okay. I was like, what? I
I was
didn't
watching
understand the
before.
comments at first. All right.
Was either that, or I was
Um,
just going to leave FIFA running on, which is on pause in the background on the other HDMI. So
all right.
there's
Well, I
that.
suppose that's as clever a segue as I could otherwise have. So we'll move into now that the U.S. is out. Was this a successful World Cup?
It, I want to say it's kind of what we thought would happen on a good scenario. It's not the best case scenario. Best case scenario it was a deep run, but realistically, I think in our conversations between you, Pat, and I don't know we were 100% convinced they would get out of the group stage. We always knew the talent was there. It was whether they could put it together. So successful, moderate level of success. I would say a fair level of success. I don't think it was anything outstanding, but it wasn't poor. I mean, they got beat by a better team. straight out. The Dutch were straight out better. That wasn't a question. And I think even when we did do the show, you and I kind of said it's like maybe it's going to take a little bit of luck, and it just didn't.
I thought we had the chance to do it. I didn't think it was likely. The fact that Pulisic almost and probably should have scored, shortly after the start of the game is a sign that, yeah, we had chances, we had opportunities, we had chances to we had chances we should have scored along the way. The one goal we did get was a fluke, but Haji Wright should have scored moments before, whatever, 2 minutes or something before he scored that goal. So like
Right.
we had opportunities.
I would like to
But yeah,
step in though.
they're
I would like to
they're
step in
better,
before we
and
get too deep into this and just point out though that we saw it on Twitter and it checks out is that Haji Wright has more knockout round goals than Cristiano Ronaldo, which and anybody who knows my lack of a positive opinion of Cristiano Ronaldo, I think that's absolutely outstanding. Haji Wright has more goals in the knockout stage than Cristiano Ronaldo. That said, though, like I said, getting out of the group stage was never going to be a foregone conclusion. They did it. And then they came up against a better team, and the top European teams we don't have success in the World Cup against any of the top teams in the world other than England, realistically speaking.
yeah,
We never have. I mean, so yeah, I don't think it's a failure. I think it's successful. It's just a moderate level of success. I think it was a good. It wasn't best case scenario, but it wasn't. It was probably right up a B minus, a C plus, B, maybe a B. I guess I'd say a B because
I'd probably go B if I was grading it on like an A to F scale, just because it like you said, like it's technically a success. It's what we expected at least, or maybe not expected,
I
what
think
we
we were
hoped
hoping.
for. I did not have high hopes for this
No,
U.S. team at this World Cup. I didn't have high hopes for this World Cup. Both of them exceeded my expectations in terms of play. There were
I
certainly some down spots for the U.S. The fact that what did we finish with 3 goals overall? Um,
right.
it's not like this level of talent you would expect to be able to produce more than that.
But
That said,
gave
what's
up
the
four.
one glaring spot? We do not have a player. It's striker.
Mm-hmm. And we knew, and we talked about that going in. We said that was going to be a problem. It continued to be you go back and watch any of the, Ricardo Pepi, maybe. No, he went to Germany and kind of fell apart. Ferreira didn't quite get there. I think and the question becomes Josh Sargent. He seemed like he was able to fill that role,
His hold up play was great. His kind of false nine play was good. It was
but
scoring goals.
and I think that was the way they
And
would have been.
ultimately that's where we're failing. So that's what
Sure.
we need.
I see S27 says not a failure, but the bare minimum. I think the bare minimum was obtained when they made the World Cup. That was the minimum.
Maybe. I don't know. Like our expectations should be higher than that. That
They should
said,
be. They
what we
should be.
saw through most of qualifying, they weren't good enough to meet most of our expectations through qualifying. That's
Well,
why everyone it was so down on Berhalter to begin. Well, I shouldn't say to begin with, because to begin with we go back to how did he get the job and whatever. But
and
why was everyone so down on him? Kind of up until the World Cup. Part of it was we didn't look particularly good. We looked pretty crappy, and we did it. We looked that bad against teams that were crappy to begin with. So, this was a down year for Mexico. This is a down cycle for Mexico. Canada has some strengths, but they also had giant flaws, and we managed to, I don't know, let them exploit those flaws against us
well,
instead.
again, can't when. But when did Canada get? And I'm not going to bag on Canada too much. Canada won the group. Canada got
Yeah,
stuck. Realistically, they got stuck in the group of death. I mean,
maybe. Yeah.
Croatia and Morocco both came out of that group. So, but Canada, the thing for Canada is when did they pile up? When did they have their two hardest games? At home in December and in January. Makes life a hell of a lot easier. So and you know what? That's just how the schedule worked out, and I get it. But having to go to Edmonton, and where was the Edmonton for Mexico, and we played them in, I want to say Halifax, but I know that was
I don't.
anyway. It's irrelevant.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't matter much.
But it was in January. It was in January. I mean, it was.
Who would
So
you say raised their stock this World Cup?
Matt Turner, Tyler Adams,
Oh, absolutely.
Weston McKennie. When he was healthy and he was on the field, he was good. Pulisic
I think the
looked back
midfield across the board.
Pulisic looked back to being Captain America in large spurts. I mean, he had moments off. Tim Ream, except he's 1,000 years old.
You know, for being for being as old as he is, and for being as old as he is, actually like making a U.S. World Cup squad, he looked damn good. Yeah, like I aside from the Netherlands' first goal that was largely Tyler Adams' fault, that he looked amazing. Like he looked team of the tournament. Like
Yunus Musa.
good enough. Oh yeah, then you get into Musa. Yeah, I mean the entire midfield, the MMA midfield, as we're now apparently calling it, they were excellent, at least through the opening rounds. And it's unfortunate that I think they were probably out of gas. I think they had been overplayed by the time we made it to the game against the Netherlands, and some of that is down to the
it's the style of play. It's the style of play they played. They played a pressing style. They played a style that they. But realistically, when you have a squad that young, that's kind of how you had to do. That's what they had to do to get it out of the group stage. Like it or hate it, they don't have
and
the
then you
depth.
put in you put in the fact that it was a compressed schedule because of the way they're playing this World Cup. Yeah, it was way too much time for them. S27 says Adams runs too much. I mean, I get it, but would you rather have a guy who will get involved in anything, or a guy who just picks his spots at that point in the field? You know, it's one thing to pick your spots when you're Messi and the rest of the team can live without you because it's built to just let you go be a superstar. It's another thing when the team doesn't have the quality to do that. Adams was Roy Kent, you know?
Yeah, he's here, he's there, he's every fucking where. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was singing that song when he let that I don't remember who scored the first goal for the Netherlands. Let the dude run right past him and get that goal. But
yeah, the ending. I don't think the ending. Like I said, they ran into a Dutch side that was good. They were set up to beat the style that Greg had been playing. Is that a flaw of Greg Berhalter's? I feel like this looks kind of segue into overall. People bag on Berhalter. The games did not look good. There are results you shake your head at. But realistically, what did he not accomplish that he was supposed to accomplish, other than you could argue win the group?
He got the results that I think he
won the Gold Cup. He won the CONCACAF
he got the
Nations
results
League.
that I think everyone
He got
kind
the
of
draw. He got a
expected
draw at
going
Azteca.
in.
But like I said, there are individual results. He got into the World Cup. He got out of the group stage. I don't know what more he needs to accomplish to say he knows what he's doing. You can bag all you want on the fact that his brother is an executive at US Soccer. He also is a pretty damn good coach. The irony of it is when you look at Greg, if you go back through the Ocho, you sat there and you go, what the hell how does this team come out and look like crap in the first half? He makes adjustments and they come out flying in the second half. He gets to the World Cup and it was the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of weird that that's how it worked, but he did what was asked of him. He got him into the World Cup. He turned Mexico into his proverbial bitch.
Shit.
I'm really not sure if you're talking about successful managers. You know, the first time I saw or I shouldn't say the first time, but the second time I saw the U.S. play in a World Cup qualifier was at Columbus and watched Mexico humiliate.
We'll not talk about that game. We'll
We
just move
won't.
on.
We don't need. Yeah, but just
What
that.
what
But
about
said,
so little of Brendan Aronson and Gio Reyna? I'm just
say that again.
moving on. I'm ignoring. What about seeing so little of Aronson and Reyna?
Aronson played usually almost a half every game because he was the
But
one.
realistically, considering I don't know, going in, he may have been the most in form U.S. player. Maybe second to Tyler Adams.
But
They could have the
well,
discussion, but
they're not,
like,
who again. The question becomes who are you going to take him out for, put him in for? Were you going to put him for Pulisic? You going to put him in for Weah? They both
oh,
played really well.
I'm not
Part
saying
of it,
I'm not
and that's
necessarily
part of it is
disagreeing, but
matchups. Part of it's matchups. I mean, and that becomes the challenge is where Aronson plays is where they were strong. And so where you're going with this is Gio Reyna, and I know that's where you want to go.
I'm not necessarily going there yet. I'm just
Okay.
I'll get there. I was just kind of bringing it up to say,
Take Musa or
are there some
McKinney out.
things to count to consider about Triple G? We haven't we kind of talked some about we've of course talked about the Netherlands, but like we haven't talked about his coaching versus Avon Hall or anything. So I think there are more things to discuss about him. I was also going to get into where do we go next? Does he stay?
Let's
Whatever.
finish.
But we can, I
What
suppose. Well, if you're going to bring it up, we can go straight into Geo and
let's wrap up. Let's wrap up the
GGG
game.
versus GIO.
Well, let's wrap up the games first. I mean, he played a high pressing style, and it seemed like that the style he was looking to play was what a lot of the underdog teams were doing, Canada included. You'd see games and you'd watch the first 10 minutes. Australia was another one that these teams weren't good or weren't as and that's how they would press for a while, and then eventually they would run out of gas and then they'd get overrun. That seemed to be in the first round how things played out. We held on a little bit better and we made it out of the group stages. Van Hall he's been doing this a long time. He is a great coach. He set their team up tactically.
Don't tell Man United fans that.
Oh, man,
I don't give a shit. It's just a joke.
Yeah, but he set the team up to beat he set them up to absorb the pressure and counter and play into the places where the U.S. would try to. It was a well coached game on Van Hall's part, but you know what? They went one game further. That's about it. So they met their end too. When his team became unglued against Argentina, as teams do. So I've kind of looked back at it and gone, well, what would you do different? You had youth on your side, you had athleticism on your side. You don't have the technical ability. You don't have the ability to break teams down. That's why we suck. We don't have a number 9. We can't break teams down. We had to look to play in behind and use the athleticism to our advantage. And I think tactically that was the best way they're set up. With the lineups he was choosing to, and part of it is the style we're playing against. Again, against Wales on the front foot most of the game, and when we weren't, the last 30 minutes, 40 minutes when we weren't, that's when we gave up a stupid penalty. England, we outplayed England. We didn't get the result.
Yeah.
Iran until we went to a bunker, we were good. We had to go into a bunker. We needed to get out of that game with a win. You get to the Dutch, like I said, ran into a better team. The lack of a number 9 is a problem. That to me was one of the errors. And I think if we go back into some of the past shows, I think we said when they set the roster, or at least during text messages we said we thought that was a problem. I thought I thought PFOC should have been there for sure. With the style they were looking to play, I thought PFOC would have been because it's similar to what Union Berlin plays, bunker and counter, or not even bunker, just absorb and counter out of it, and that. So you're either doing hold up play or you're going to be running solo in behind, going one on several defensively, and that I thought PFOC would have been the answer for that, but that was the one spot. Anybody wants to criticize the selection? John Brooks. John Brooks doesn't. The one time he came in with a shit attitude. He
Well,
doesn't belong. He didn't belong. That was center backs. Zimmerman's PK aside, that was not that they were not the problem.
I do wonder somewhat. Like we've talked amongst ourselves, you, me, Pat, about some of the rumors we've heard about why Brooks wasn't around. And there's things that like we can't put on here because it's just not stuff that we're not going to be a part of, like saying out loud. But I don't know if any of that was true. I wonder somewhat though if that was sort of Greg trying to put some control in the way he did against McKennie at one point, the way he did against Reyna during the World Cup, or just before the World Cup. It I see. It looks like S27 saying he has Berhalter has a lot of problems with guys. If the things that we've heard about, say Brooks and about McKennie are true, it's understandable why he would want to come in and say, no, this isn't going to be acceptable. You go home for a while. We'll get into the Reyna thing in a minute. That I think is a little bit different, but I guess I can understand him wanting to have some sort of law, some sort of, internal morality or whatever that kind of keeps people in line. I can understand it.
But that said, he did a lot of other things that you've never seen, like allowing the families to be such an integral part. You got to remember, this is other than old man Tim Ream, this team was young, very, very young. I honestly, what do they say? Second youngest in the tournament. And that's because he had 3,000-year-old Tim Ream running your center back. Otherwise, you might be the youngest team in the tournament.
Probably, yeah.
We looked at that right after they, they're all still going to be young in 4 years. There's still not going to be a lot of them over 30.
Yeah.
I mean,
not even close.
Right. And so that said, he allowed the families to be a part of it. He made it a very family-oriented atmosphere, atmosphere. He set standards for the players and said, you have to be there. You have to be bought into it. This isn't going to be the you show. It's going to be the us show. And you look at the ones that the issues are with, McKinney did dumb shit. It was about him.
I would agree with that. But like Giovanni says here.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Giovanni says here, did all the players have bad attitudes or did they not respect a bad coach? I have heard some interviews that say the top players, the guys who are all playing on top teams and playing under top managers, kind of see Greg as, what the hell do you know? I'm better than you. I play for a coach who's better than you. I'm not hearing this shit from him. Why am I hearing it from you? They don't quite respect him. They don't think he's qualified enough to be where he is. And maybe that's what Reyna was doing. I don't know. Maybe he was sort of big timing Greg too. But it does sort of, if those stories are true, and I don't know the people behind them to like go verify them and whatever. I'm not trying. It's not like I put in that kind of effort to find these things. But if that's true, there is the level of, and I think this is kind of naturally bound to happen. The players have to have someone that they can, or who they can look up to, or whom they will respect. And I don't know if another call it mainstream US coach is that answer.
Think back. I want you to think back, and this is going to go back in time a little bit. You know how I like to always use other teams and other teams players analogies to try and draw a parallel. This team, other than old man Ream, was like Michigan's Fab Five. way back. And
They're just going
again,
to
we're
call
going back.
timeouts.
Hmm?
They're just going to call timeouts.
Young, brash, and you had the young guys trying to run the show. And there were times
Yeah.
if you watch them, they didn't look like they respected Steve Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
man, they all played for him. I feel like this team was similar. You name one of them that didn't bring their full effort, that didn't leave the field gassed. I get it at the World Cup, but they did. They've done it time and time again. Look at every game against Mexico. They may not agree with what he tactically. They may think they know more than him, but they played.
I don't know what to think of like using Mexico as an example, because in the end, for the last say 4 years, maybe longer, of like Donovan's international career, how hard did he show up for other games? But he sure did show up for Mexico. You know, like I bet you could still suit that guy up, and he would go run his body to the ground. He would go die on the field just to beat Mexico. And he may make stupid commercials like borderline supporting them these days. He may make interviews that or give interviews that sound like he's their friend, but like, come on, when it came to it, he hated them, and it took him to another level. And I don't know if it's hard for me to sometimes say when I see other players, like, did they do this because, say, Berhalter coached them well, or did they do this because they were up because it was a game against Mexico and they either didn't want to get embarrassed by Mexico or they wanted to embarrass Mexico.
I guess I'll counter that argument by saying Landon played his entire career in the United States. He heard that full time.
Maybe, yeah.
These guys that play in the guys that play in Europe, they don't hear that nearly as much. It's not the same. You're talking they're big time. They're playing in Europe. They don't have. They're surrounded by it all the time, like they would be if they were U.S. based. So I'm not going to. Like I said, at the end of the day, love him or hate him, you may not agree with how he did tactically. His team did. And they may have ripped him publicly. I don't think he cared. I think that's why when they would do that. They would start, I don't think he cared. I really don't, because I think he also knows he's dealing with, I mean, come on, think college age kids. Realistically, it was a lot of college age type kids, and they're going to do that once in a while. But when it came time to play, they were all there. I mean, hell, Pulisic's nuts are still somewhere on the field in Qatar.
He says no. All right, enough of that. We're moving on to.
Oh, by the way, let me wrap it up with this. Sorry, because we're gonna, before we get to a lot of the talk is right now, and to finish up with G cubed, is they're talking extension with him now. They're still talking extension. I've heard nothing. Yeah. I've not read nothing otherwise. Grant Wall would have been the one who would have known that kind of. But that said, the reason why they're talking extension with him now is because he is being looked at by teams elsewhere. And I don't think it's MLS sides looking for him. There are people who do like what he does. Yes, his brother was an executive at U.S. Soccer. His brother doesn't make that decision. That decision is made by more. And how many other people, other than possibly Jesse Marsh, would you have said? And
we'll get to that in a minute. Hold on. Slow your horses there. Triple G versus GIO. Who are we calling a winner here? Ding, ding, ding.
Nobody.
So stupid, but whatever. I don't care.
Nobody wins. I mean, let's walk through. Okay, so.
But we're in the business of hot takes. Somebody's got to win.
Nobody wins. You're probably your most technically astute player. Didn't have a huge role. Now that, again, I can go back into the tactics and say I'm not 100% sure where he would have fit into some of those with the style they were playing. He's not a number 9. That was the big hole. Again, what are you going to put him in there over Pulisic? Are you going to put him in over Tim Weah? No. MMA? No.
I still stand by part of that.
especially
Like,
considering he did not feature a lot during the qualifiers because he was injured all the time. And
it takes us back kind of to some of the earlier discussions about maybe, how did the US do during the tournament. But I still stand by, like, if your strikers aren't scoring, what if you try one of the other guys who might score at striker? Why
well,
couldn't Weah play a striker? Why
and,
couldn't
and that
Pulisic
was the
play a
one.
striker? And that also opens up another spot in the midfield for one of these other guys that you're having trouble figuring out where to fit them in. Where do you squeeze them in? What do you do with them? How do you get them in there? Well,
Sure.
here's a simple answer. You take out the guy who's, I don't know, like, in Josh Sargent's case, is holding up the ball well, but not able to score. And I don't know, holding up the ball isn't doing a lot for us because our entire offense is based on crossing the ball. We don't have a tall striker. We don't have a striker who's especially proficient with heading, and we're not trying to do anything that leads to hold up play in that part of the field. So we've kind of negated his purpose out there. Why not try one of the guys who has speed and could then run past the defenders and run into the space behind them, and maybe we get a goal the same way that, like, Weah scored his first.
Sure.
Pulisic should have scored against the Netherlands, whatever.
Sure.
But anyway, all that
You're
aside,
as well. That's all 100% true. We did talk, and we talked about it via text. I know that. And Weah was the one we thought should have slid over and played 9. And again, unfortunately, Josh Sargent getting hurt, I think, worked against him in that sense. I think he was the one they were going to keep using in that false 9 type
agreed.
role.
Oh,
That
for
all
sure, he would
said,
have started against Netherlands
that
if
that
not
all
for.
said, yeah, he was due to start. He was going to start except for injury. That all said, that does not excuse Gio Reyna being a petulant child.
See,
I don't care what is said. You cannot be a petulant child. I know he's 19. Guess what? The defenders of Gio Reyna will say, well, he's 19 years old. Guess what? He's old enough to go fight a war. He's old enough to be enough of an adult where, you know what? Take your chances. Okay, maybe if he's not a petulant child, he's going to feature more. They gave him a chance to get out of this. When they said he picked up the hamstring or had some tightness and they didn't, that was the out. That was not them throwing him under the bus. That was giving him an out. That was G Cube taking the high road and saying, well, we're just going to make up an injury excuse for you for today. And then we're going to probably feature you more against England. And then he went and became a petulant child, even worse, continuing afterwards.
well, I don't know. Did he, like? It's
They said
unclear
the next
exactly. It's unclear kind of where the timeline exists after the whatever
that's when
the revelation occurred before like the Wales game even. So
the big incident was before. The biggest incident was before the Wales game. We know that. However, there had to be other things leading up to this. This was not an isolated
presumably,
yeah. This could not have been an isolated incident. When he went back and said, "Oh no, I was 100% healthy," they had given him the out. Shut up. They gave him an out. He was not playing, probably more or less he was not playing for disciplinary reasons. Take the out. Use your head. And you don't
I
go to
wonder
Ronaldo.
somewhat, and that's where it kind of gets into, is some of it he's a kid, is some of it is his dad is well connected in these circles, is
Sure.
some of it is his dad is a personal, I don't know if we can call friend, but at least well-known acquaintance of Eric Winalda. Did
And
Winalda hearing things and then spilling them out to the public make this bigger than it was? But like, there's so many things about this that I just look at and say that was a bad choice. It was. I don't understand, why were you telling him in advance that, or why would you, as, say, Greg Berhalter, tell Gio Reyna in advance that, hey, guess what, you're not going to play really in this World Cup? Because what if somebody got hurt and suddenly he had to? Like, what was the point in telling him he's not? maybe
I
you
th-
thought
I
you were going to
and
break it to
I
him, but
I
if something changes, okay. But
that's the
then
one that's the one spot I don't think we're ever going to have an answer to. I think that
maybe, yeah,
I believe
probably
what
not.
was told to him, he
Well, we
took.
might, but that's just because we might know some people that
True.
we
I
we can't say
I'm get
some things that we might hear. But
I think what's going to I my speculation in my hot take, because we have to have those, is what's going to come out is that what Gio said in his crafted statement, saying that he was told he wasn't going to play much, wasn't the exact wording. It was done. It was said a little bit differently.
it
And who
probably was.
cares? You know what? Here's the deal. You get on the field, make them put you back on the field. Make them keep you in
No,
the game.
I agree with you that first say my first take is Berhalter said something he shouldn't have either way. Like what was the point of that conversation? But then okay, why did Gio blow up the
It's
way he
the
did?
World
Then
Cup.
why did anyone fucking say to fucking Eric Winalda, "Oh, here's what's going on"? So then it blew up and people heard a different story. Then I
Dude,
don't know, you
it
guys
was
perhaps figured it out amongst yourselves,
it was
and
bad
then
enough
Greg
it
went
was
and
bad
talked about it in public. Like,
it was bad enough there was conversations behind closed doors about sending him home.
yeah,
That's not done lightly. That's not he is your most gift he might be your
I
most
am
gifted
curious
player.
about what the vote means. Like
I my
that it was so
now
close is really interesting to me.
it
If assuming that
that
is
vote
true,
okay, here I will tell you what that vote means from my again, this is just my opinion as somebody who's been a company commander in the reserve. I mean, I've had you will ask those questions. That doesn't mean you're kind of taking the temperature of the room. That
hmm
doesn't mean you're going to go along with it. If especially that it was that split, you could go either you could turn around and go, you know what? There's enough of you that need him here. We're going to keep him here. Or
uh,
it's going to be a factor in the decision. It
yeah,
means he
yeah.
talked to the team.
But you can also
You
say
know,
whatever the results were, whether they
you
were
know
that or
Ernie
not.
Stewart, you know Brian McBride were in these conversations. You know his entire staff was in these It's not Greg in a vacuum. Get this
Hmm.
Twitter has to get that out of their head. This is not Greg on his own. I'm just going to do this. There are conversations. Ernie Stewart's involved. Brian McBride is involved. All of his staff is involved. Yes, he might make the finals, but there are people involved in these discussions. And there are people who are smart.
What I'm curious about this with by the vote as taking the vote the vote that we've heard of at face value that it was 13-12, um, stay versus leave. The thing that is most curious to me is how was it that close? Like, what did he do that it was that close? Because John Harkes fucked Eric Winalda's wife, and Eric Winalda was still like, "No, I wanted him at the World Cup. I didn't think we should have cut him. I didn't think Steve Sampson should have sent him home because we needed him to win." Like,
And
things were way worse than whatever Gio did, whatever Gio could have done. It was way worse than that, and yet half the guys thought he should go home.
and everybody who says it's the MLS guys that want him to go home, that's not what they're saying. Not what I'm hearing and what
I
I've
don't know.
read.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it doesn't sound like it. It doesn't sound like it was as simple cut as this was the the MLS contingency had set. That was that block. That's not what's being reported. That's not what's out there. So that all said, now did this now you the criticism for G Cubed is that people said he talked about this in a leadership seminar
Hmm.
a week ago or whatever. Everyone's like, he shouldn't have talked about it. Okay, number one, this was going to come out. Sorry, this was too big. This was going
Well,
to come out at some
I
point.
mean, sure, it would
Now,
have come out. It doesn't have to come from your mouth, you know? Like,
but
it's one
you know
thing
what?
for things to
Well,
come out. It doesn't have to come from the mouth of the manager. You know, somebody else can say it
sure.
somewhere, and hey, you can
You,
cover it up. You can be like,
I
oh,
think
you
I think he was
you can
talking
have
about it in the.
plausible deniability.
I think he was
Not when you
talking
say it
about it.
out in front of people.
I think he was talking about it more in the sense of that he went to his team leadership and
Mhm,
had the
mhm,
discussion with them before they even had that vote. You know that his senior his team leadership council, I'm going to say, for the lack of a better term, team leadership council, probably 4 or 5 of those guys had that conversation first. Like, do we need to have this conversation with the entire team? And that's where that piece was decided. I think he was talking about in that sense of having team communication back and forth, because you don't have that vote again unless there's other discussions within the team prior to it. Number one. Number two, had somebody said it was about Scally or Luca De La Torre, somebody else that that Twitter thought was outstanding that never featured,
mhm.
and not Gio Reyna, would you have been surprised? If that conversation, like where they were petulant and because they truly didn't play.
You mean
The
would
thing,
I have been surprised that they got
the
sent
problem
home
was is
or?
the okay. So Berhalter does this thing on like Tuesday or Wednesday, and then
Mhm,
on the weekend is when it came out from the Athletic that, or it started dropping, but the Athletic had it that it was Gio. So that's when it went to Geo versus G cubed. But if before that, when he just had, remember that was out there for a couple days that he talked about the how to deal with somebody who's not playing as a part of the team. Um, and so I think had it been about one of the other players that didn't play at all, I think you would have had you wouldn't have been surprised either. The fact that it came out that it was Geo and then it blew up from there. Ultimately, there's no winners to this. I think, and if you read Twitter, everybody's like, "Oh, it means Berhalter's unqualified to go on." I don't think that's the case either. Nothing's going to change. Think about it. Think back the beginning, the first round of the Ocho, when Weston McKennie did his dumb shit. They figured it out. He got back into the fold.
I'm not saying this
For
isn't recoverable.
all the criticisms of Triple G, he's not somebody who's locked and stuck in his ways in that sense. McKinney came back in. Tim Ream was out in no man's land. Tim Ream comes in. His golden child for a goalkeeper, Zach Steffen, didn't make it. He values team chemistry. There's no question. He absolutely values that. He liked his group. He had his group. He ran with his group.
Much like Hercules Gomez said, though, now that you've taken this private team, I don't know, issue into
Mm-hmm.
the public arena, can you have that team chemistry again? Will that team trust you again? Will those players trust you again? I would assume Gio Reyna won't, but and anybody who supports him probably won't.
But
But um,
again, the straight counter on that is Weston McKennie. You brought it up way at the beginning of the
but
beginning of this.
we don't know if McKennie, like the rumors I've heard are that McKennie doesn't trust him anyway. So, and does it have to do with whatever happened back, you know, 14 months ago or whatever it was now? Or does he not trust him because, hey, I play for Allegri and like I don't give a shit what you say. Like you don't know what you're doing. Um, which is kind of the way that it's been portrayed in things that are out there. So I don't know. Um, but I will take it and say that leads us to the next question. Does Greg stay? Does he go? Who comes next?
I think Greg is here for now. Do I think he's going to be there in 4 years? That I don't think. I honestly don't believe he will be. I believe he's here for at least another year or so, and maybe just until the end of the season in Europe, when he can go. I think he goes to Europe next. I really do,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they want him to stay with this group until that happens. They're going to give him a contract. How many times do you see it in sports? Coach gets a contract, coach manager gets a contract extension. You know full well.
Then bails or gets dumped.
Well, it's nothing more than we don't have anybody better.
Kiss of
You're
death.
staying for now. Do I think in 4 years he's going to be on the sideline? I do not. Do I think he's earned the right to be there? I do, but I don't think he's going to be there. I think he's going to go out. I think between him, McBride, Ernie Stewart, they're going to look at it and go, you know what? We're going to go our separate ways. You know, I don't think I feel there's an understanding that that's likely the case, but again,
keep talking. I'm going to grab a charger.
You're going to grab a charger. Okay. So Chris, you got to look Chris against technology. You always know he's going to lose that battle. No, so I do believe he's going to be here for the next bit. I don't know if he's going to be, I don't think he's going to be the guy in 4 years, but I don't think he's done anything to not earn that. Like I said, to me, in my opinion, he has done what he was asked to do. He was asked to get him in the World Cup. He did that. He was asked to turn Mexico into the proverbial bitch. He did that. And I get it. Mexico's on a decaying side right now, but you know, all these players the ones that have dual citizenship, he's gotten nearly all of them. So he's doing that. These players sign up for some reason. Yeah, it might have been. Do I think his brother's why he got that? No, I don't. I think his brother was an executive at U.S. Soccer. I believe Greg Berhalter was a qualified coach to do it. I think when he was hired, I think he was as good as anybody. I liked the hire when they made it. They said he was detail oriented. He's meticulous. He is that. Is he going to be? Conspiracy theory. He's already signed the extension. It's U.S. Soccer. I wouldn't doubt it. But I also think there's the possibility that he'll have another job lined up, and when he leaves that job, then realistically they're going to keep him until he goes somewhere else, because then they don't have to have a caretaker before they hire the next one. My guess is Ernie Stewart, Brian McBride are already working on a list for when Greg leaves of who they're going to hire. So I guess kind of as I rambled as you were gone, Chris, is
I listened to it all.
I think he gets an extension. I don't think he's there in 4 years. I think when the next cycle, because they don't have to qualify, so you don't have that cycle.
True.
So
that said, you don't want a manager to come in and, like, I don't know, have a completely new team or be a new manager to an existing team.
Really? Ask Morocco how that worked out.
I'm not saying it didn't work out. Like, I'm not saying there aren't exceptions to the rule. In general, you want your team to be playing a certain style, and you want it to stay that style, and you need consistency.
Well, one thing I'll say in G's
beer while I was gone too. So
the one thing I'll say in G's defense is he had a style. He found out realistically it's not realistic for what he had in terms of his, and he did make some adjustments to it to try and fit with more of the players he did have. So yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I think you do want a manager, you want a style, you want to kind of get some of that in play. But if you have G, I think he's here for another year, maybe 18 months, and I think that's when you move on. Realistically, other than Didier Deschamps, has there really been another manager who's gone more than one cycle and not crashed? That doesn't happen often. They get more than one cycle and don't crash and burn. What's his name? The nut sniffer from Germany had a pretty good run.
I was just going to say Yogi Love.
But he crashed and burned.
His most recent did not go so well. His replacement didn't do so well this year, but
which is one of the weirdest things. Yeah, that is.
Yeah, to see Germany bow out twice in the group stage. Yikes.
But I mean, realistically, the European champions aren't in the World Cup.
True.
So it can't. I mean, it can't happen. But we've watched enough, especially. I mean, the teams I think of: Argentina, Brazil. Morocco did it this time. You change managers at the last minute, and you can make adjustments within that. Like I said, I think he's here another year to 18 months, and then I think he's gone at the most. So that's my prediction on. But they're going to give him the extension for 4 years. He's not going to finish it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So,
Um, let's say you get to pick the next one. Who do you think who do you think it should be, or who do you think it could be? Like, what are your choices? Who are your choices?
Obviously, the entire U.S. soccer, the entire hashtag going to want Jesse Marsh. It's not going to be Jesse Marsh. I don't think. A name I'm going to come back to is Brian Schmetzer with the Seattle Sounders.
Okay.
He's 60 years old right now, so he'd be 64 when the next World Cup. So he get one shot at this. And realistically, it's all you want. He's coached in big games. He's had the Sounders good for years. He took over in a pretty bad situation, right after he took over for Siggy Schmidt, was there forever. And he's kept Seattle good. He knows how to manage egos. He knows how to manage talent. Again, he's an American coach, which I know everybody will say, well, he's an MLS guy. Why are you bringing him? He's also the first one to win the CONCACAF Champions League in forever. So I think he's you watch his teams play, they play a style that like, so that's my guy. Do I think it's going to be him if it's not Triple G? No, I don't think it is, but that's a name I like. So I know you've got a list of names in front of you.
Like, yeah, I don't have my full list because I left them on my phone, and my phone is not running this, so I can't see them. But
I see Caleb Porter's name. Caleb Porter's name would be another name.
I can see it.
Caleb Porter's success in Columbus was the team that Berhalter built. I'd like to point that out.
Well,
I'm going to point that out.
His greatest success was in college at Akron.
He won 2 MLS Cups. That's pretty good success, buddy.
But but did he do it himself? Like, he built that Akron team.
He did. That's true.
And that's what got him to MLS. Did he truly prove himself in MLS to say, like, yeah, this is what I can do? Or did he, I don't know, have a nice landing spot or whatever?
Okay, let's see. Does he have to build a team right now? No.
True.
I mean, realistically,
that's a very good point.
He took over the Columbus team Berhalter built, and I don't recall if Portland was good when he took it over. I don't recall that far back, sorry, but he's won MLS Cup twice. He does well when the team's already in place. Ask him to build a team, apparently he can't do it. This team is in place. So
this team is very much in place. Presumably. I mean, there are some things that will have to be fixed before 2026. One is striker. 2 is probably the center back pairing. 3 is, I guess, anyone to fill any of the positions that might get injured, but whatever. Anybody has to worry about that.
What about what's his name with Arsenal?
Which one? You mean Arsene Wenger or
no? The striker, the dual national, the English.
Balogun.
Balogun, that's it. Yeah.
I do think the U.S. should go very hard on him because realistically, like, I get the England angle in that Harry Kane's near the end, and really realistically, he's just a penalty merchant anyway. And I'm not just saying that because fuck Harry Kane, but like, he's a penalty merchant.
His penalty still.
Kane.
I don't.
But
has his penalty landed? Has his penalty landed yet? Or is it with Kepa somewhere in the atmosphere or in space somewhere?
I do think that. So I get his angle of maybe thinking, hey, there might be a future here with England. That said, I don't know. England has a lot of options.
Greg,
the U.S. does not. You are guaranteed a starting spot if you come play for the U.S. I would be pushing hard to get him into the U.S. fold for good, and maybe that solves some of the issues. But if we're still on kind of who the next manager should be, I think, of course, people are going to want Jesse Marsh. If we're going by that thing of like no country is one, like you and I were even talking about this before we started the show. If we're going to go with the thing about no team is won without with a foreign manager, maybe you look at like David Wagner, who, I mean, really he's probably, consider him German, but he did play for the U.S. So
To me, Wagner's done. I mean,
But yeah, his career seems to kind of be tailing off. Pellegrino Matarazzo, it would probably be a promising option.
yep, yep.
And maybe like I don't know if necessarily like if you're grading them 1-to-1, I don't know if necessarily his resume is any better than say Greg's, but
I prefer G cubed.
I think it's probably more respected just because he did it in Europe as opposed to Greg who did
Sure.
it in the U.S. and just the natural bias kind of against American soccer. If you're looking at foreigners, I know Belgium
Just
sucked
spit it
recently,
out,
but
dude.
Roberto Martinez,
He had one.
part of it is,
The amount of talent he had and didn't do shit with.
yeah, no,
They never.
I'm not
He
saying
had
that
the
wasn't a
talent that needed
failure.
to win.
If you're sitting around and money's no object, and come on, money shouldn't be an object for us realistically.
No, it shouldn't be.
What's Zidane doing? And again, I don't know if that guy can build a team or not. Like he was kind of in an
Again,
unfair spot
he probably
in
doesn't
that.
have to build a lot of it.
Like,
He
I
should
know,
not have to build a lot of a
He
team.
was
That's
handed
the
a
beauty
Real
of this
Madrid
position.
team, and then said, "Hey, here you go." Pep Guardiola has said he might coach a national team next. Maybe Man City wins everything this year, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm done." You mentioned him earlier, Yogi Love. Maybe this is his chance to get some comeuppance on Jurgen a second time.
Maybe.
And I don't remember the rest of my list, so I'll say
No,
that
your
those
list.
are my ideas.
Your list is your list is pretty sound. I'll give you credit for that, which
I mean,
pains
I'm
me to do.
sorry, we're the fucking United States. We may be a bit of a backwater still, maybe not a backwater, but a sidewater in like world football. But like we can offer you a high profile position. We should be able to offer you all the fucking money you want. Why couldn't we get
Well, we
anybody
seem
we
to
want?
offer him
It's
shit
stupid to
uniforms.
think we can't because I'm sorry, we have the backing. If you guys haven't listened to, this is kind of an aside, but it's somewhat related. A total aside, but somewhat related. If you guys haven't listened to, there's a podcast called, I think it's called The Final Cup, and I can't think of what it is in Spanish. It's a dual language podcast about Messi looking ahead at coming into the World Cup, and they talk about how Argentina kind of vaguely knew of him before they brought him on. That like they went to the U17 World Cup and they had heard of this kid and they'd seen video of him and apparently it was like mind blowing. He was how good he was, but they thought, well, we already have this team in place, and so we won't take him. But they get there and they're like staying in a hotel with the Spanish team, and the Spanish national team has brought like their own chef who's like cooking meals for him and things. Meanwhile, the Argentinian team has had to like smuggle in their own alcohol just so they could like have a beer after the game or something. The coaches, I mean, and they're like they somehow say like the chef says like to the Argentine coaches, oh yeah, have you not heard about this kid at Barcelona? Like, this kid's amazing. And they go, oh, yeah, we heard of him. And he's like, you fucking idiots. You heard of him and you didn't bring him? But, like, the funny thing, like, what made me think of this is their national team at the time was so poor, they had to, like, smuggle in their own beers just so their coaches could have a beer after the game. Meanwhile, the Spanish team was bringing in, like, a personal chef. We have the money to bring in the personal chef. And yet we're like, I don't know if we want to pay for this coach. That coach might be too expensive. It's not too expensive. U.S. soccer
when
has
have they
more
ever said,
money than they can fucking worry about for anything.
when have they ever said they weren't paying for a coach? The last
I'm
I
not saying
that,
they say it, but I'm saying that conversation always comes up. That conversation comes up every single time
that's because
there's an opening.
That's because we spend too much time on Twitter where these conversations come
Well,
up when we're not.
maybe so.
I mean,
Or
eventually, and I
what's
feel
the
like,
new place now that Elon Musk has decided to murder Twitter the same way that
yeah,
people of
well,
his political ilk
that's
want to murder our country? But whatever.
yet we digress. But I mean, realistically, I do recall that being the case, though, that they were considered cheap, but until they spent the money and went and got Jurgen Klinsmann, that's when they feel like that conversation ended. So I don't know.
I just saw the comment. Somebody is Greg Berhalter and says, "Do I still have a job?" Well done, bravo, Greg.
Greg, if you still have a job, we're not sure. If your badge works tomorrow in Chicago, let me know. I mean that's kind of it. That's it, GQ. As long as your badge is still working at the office, you're good to go. When they turn it
All
off,
right.
you're in
Well,
trouble.
with that, I think we should move on.
All right.
World Cup final predictions. What are your thoughts?
God, I want this to be Messi's. I really, really do. That said, 3-1 France.
Oh, I don't think it could be. Well, I was gonna say, I almost said I don't think it could be anything like that. I do think in both cases, if one team can score early, it could turn into 3-0 either way.
Right.
France is more likely to be able to stay calm in that, but at the same time, Argentina seems like hell bent on getting Messi a World Cup. Like they seem dead set on he's going to get this. We're going to do whatever we have to make this happen for him. He seems set to do it.
I'm gonna, like I said, I always use other sports. He reminds me of the 6th championship Michael Jordan. Like, F you, I'm doing whatever I need to do. If I have to kill you, I'm going to do that. The way the assist on their last goal against Croatia, the abuse, that poor left back.
God, to take him like on the line the way he did, like on the sideline, take him all the way to the end line, and then like still like fake right, and then go around on the
speeds,
byline,
back him
like,
down,
Jesus.
spin him, and then slide that pass.
Yeah.
I really want Messi to. I do. We've talked about this enough times on the show. We are Messi apologists. So if you're looking for Cristiano Ronaldo,
I am not an apologist. Messi's just fucking amazing. That is not an apology. Like, is it amazing to say that something is beautiful? It is not.
Okay, we appreciate the art that is Messi. And we all despise Cristiano Ronaldo, which makes it even more fun. So that all said, I still think 3-1 France. I think France is really, really good. And they're missing Greece. They're missing Benzema and Pogba, and they're still that good.
France has the, I think, best depth. And so presumably, like if I was just placing regular bets, if I was just an outsider, I would still probably bet on France because top to bottom, they are ridiculously good this time. That said, Argentina's got some pretty good depth too. Both teams have shown they can get scored on, and Argentina has Messi. Like if Messi does Messi shit, come on, that's worth a goal or two right there. Sure. And I think overall over the last couple of games, France has kind of trended downward while Argentina's trended up. And maybe that's kind of throughout the tournament. Now I don't know if they've truly passed each other.
How do you call a team in the final trending downward?
I know. But like they haven't looked as good over the last few games as they did come on, their first 2 games of the tournament, they looked like they were going to wipe the field with anyone. And the last couple of games, they've looked like they could have been beaten. And I guess that's where I say trending down. It's not that they're not still amazing. They are. Like if there's anybody in the last 24 years.
I get it. Argentina was amazing against Croatia. They went to penalties against. They gave up.
Sure.
Again.
Yeah.
Go back to earlier in the show.
I know. Yeah.
Talking about the brilliance of Van Gaal to pull the school ground free kick that late in the game, he can coach. To pull that play. Hey, run
Yeah.
this one now. We have.
Yeah.
I saw somebody mentioned Triple G mentioned we should hire Ted Lasso. That's right on the Ted Lasso playbook.
Um,
So
Mbappe, he's kind of been shown that there is a way to at least negate his ability over the last couple games. No one has shown the ability to truly negate Messi. Like the way to negate Messi, I don't know, stick 10 guys around him. But now they've got multiple guys who've shown they can score if they have to, who've shown they can like progress the play when they need to.
you know,
Like
can
4 years ago.
I point something out when it comes to Argentina? They got rid of Higuain and they won Copa America, and now we're in the finals of the World Cup again. I mean, Higuain, the most likely to have a heater lit up on the field, but
Like an embarrassment of riches that Julian Alvarez plays for Man City at the same time that Erling Haaland does. Like Jesus Christ.
yeah,
I know, like his first goal the other day was largely luck too. That just by coincidence, every time the ball hit a defender or the goalie or whomever, it just kept bouncing up onto him and right in front of him. And so, like, it was like
you
it
still,
just, hey, it just kept falling to him. But
you know what?
he
You
showed
still
an
got you
incredible
still have to
ability.
finish those.
Yeah, yeah.
Ask Wondolowski about. You still have to finish those.
Again, why do you got to keep bringing this shit up?
Because Chris, I've known you for 35 years. This is fun as hell.
um, like so yeah. I mean, my feeling is, um, all around, yes, France should still probably be better, but I'll be damned if Argentina hasn't looked like they're finally maybe behind Messi. That it's not like I said 4 years ago. Like a friend of mine who's from Argentina, she was like complaining before the last World Cup, and I had said, I think it's going to come down to like Di Maria, and that um, if he
Yep.
can like unload enough of the pressure off of Messi, so Messi can just be Messi, I think you guys will. I think you guys have every shot to win this
Sure.
tournament. I think you should be favorites. And she was so doubtful, like, oh, Messi never does anything for us. The Argentine thing of like, oh, Messi, oh, he wins at Barca, but
Like I said,
finally
I
it
feel
seems
like
like they've sort of accepted that. Look, he really is as good as we hoped. Stop shitting on him and trying to drive him away when.
y- to me when they won Copa America in Brazil, that changed the script entirely. I will tell you,
Mhm.
I will say, as much as I do love the World Cup, I fully do. I'm not convinced that winning Copa America or winning the Euros isn't more difficult than it is to win the World Cup. The pressure is higher in the World Cup, but the quality of teams in
The,
those
the
tournaments,
the quality of teams at least until the quarterfinal. Yeah, sure. I guess I could see. I guess I could see the argument.
but once they won in Brazil, I believe that's a lot, and that's why I'm like, I, you know, like I said, I think 3-1 France. I still will stick with 3-1 France, and I hope to God I'm wrong. Would I be surprised to see a 3-1 Argentina? No, I really wouldn't be.
If one of them gets an early goal, like it was sort of like the other day,
Sure.
the first goal from Argentina. Well, maybe so call it the second. It was like you could tell there was blood in the water, and they were just like sharks out to fucking kill
It,
because they were so like it was like every time they touched the ball, I'm fucking scoring. Like they get
you're
that
talking
shit
about
against
France still?
France.
Except that realistically, late in the first half, Morocco had their chances to get back into that game. It's when that second one it realist.
No, no, I'm talking about the Argentina game, like the other day, like
Argentina when they got the first. Yeah,
like the by the time the second goal went in, you could tell they were out to like they were gonna finish this game. They were going to win this game. They like I think if one of them gets an early goal and the other, like that team turns on the momentum, and the other team, if their spirit breaks at all, I think then sure, whatever. It could be 3-4 for one team and one for the other, or nothing, or whatever. If it stays, till late, I think, look, if nobody scored by the 70th minute, okay, yeah, I think you probably have to favor France. But I don't know. I feel like Argentina started weak and they've grown through the tournament. I feel like France started impossibly good and hasn't stayed at that same level. Have they crossed? Have they met? I don't know. I have a hard time saying that Argentina can't win. I still think they're going to, and I mean, some of that maybe is just my heart, but like, because yeah, I don't. If it goes to penalties, who wins? Huh. I'll say Argentina because I totally believe in Martinez before I believe in Lloris.
I was going to
And
take
that's
the
not
opposite
just
for
an
that reason. But yeah,
Arsenal
but
other team
once you said that, you kind of flipped me on that.
discussion.
You flipped me on that one.
Like Martinez might be the best, I don't know, shootout keeper, best penalty keeper, like of the last 20 years. I don't even understand. I think it's just his insane ego, which he's kind of a dick. And having left Arsenal, he's kind of a dick to Arsenal, but I fucking enjoy it. He's hilarious. I love how he talks shit with all of them. I love how I love his like humping the air when things go, like when he makes a save or when they win or whatever. He's entertaining. Um, Lloris, I don't know. He'll Spurs it up somehow.
Because I'm cheering for Arsenal or Argentina in this case. I hope he spurs it up. I truly do.
I will be at the Highbury in Milwaukee in my messy jersey bright and early Sunday morning. That
Did
is
you
for sure.
you went and got one?
I've had one for years.
Oh, okay. You're saying because in text you were saying you were talking about getting another one. So.
Oh yeah, no. If they win this, I'm for sure getting this jersey. Yeah.
No,
But yeah, I may even have my Maradona T-shirt underneath it. I don't know. I gotta find it, but I think I know where it is.
If you have a Maradona T-shirt, does it have traces of cocaine on it?
So my Argentine friend, like when she was going back home one time for like a holiday or something, I was like, I sent her. I said, "Will you get me a Maradona T-shirt?" And I was like, "But I don't want one. Like, I don't want a nice one. I don't want it from like a store. I don't want it from like a gift shop. I want it from like the shittiest place. I want it like bought off the street. I want it like somebody made this in their backyard, like their kid printed it or something." I was like, "I want one of them that's like posterized. It looks like one of those Che Guevara shirts. I want one of those." But I want it like, and I want it as shitty as can be. I was like, I don't want a good one. I was like, I want it to be as cheap as can possibly be. I want this homemade. I don't want this to be like some company's doing it. I want this to be somebody does this because they love Maradona. That's what I want. And she was like, why? And I was like, because that's cool. Because he's amazing, or was amazing, is amazing at the time, was amazing now. But
still is. Yeah, I mean,
true. But at least at the time he was still alive. And I was like, because if I was ever going to be a part of a religion, I would be a part of his religion, like, because that's what I want to do. And so I was like, yeah,
all the time.
Whatever. Like, I don't care what he was, like.
Who's worse, Pete Rose? Who's worse? What's Pete Rose? Maradona's just a cokehead. I mean, the dude was brilliant on the field. He's just a cokehead.
Pete Rose tried hard, but Pete Rose was never the most gifted or most talented or whatever. Maradona was the most gifted and talented, and a lunatic. I don't know.
Like
maybe mentally they're kind of similar, but
I mean, him and Don Jr. are competing for the most coke done in history. So
is Maradona the best degenerate in sports? Probably. Probably.
Best degenerate? Him or Cantona? Take your pick. Roy
Um,
Kent. I mean, Roy Kent's got to be in
like,
that discussion.
like
But I'd
I,
put
I,
Canton on that. Anybody who goes
I
and
have
spikes a fan.
I have a list of sports heroes who, if I ever get the chance to meet, I will have
George
sign my
Best,
body and I'm
yeah.
getting it tattooed. Maradona was on that list. I did lose one of them when he died. Um, so I did not get to meet him in life. So
That's too bad.
I, but yeah, I do have a goal. If Maradona comes to
Luis
MLS,
Suarez.
excuse me, if Messi comes to MLS, as they say, I will be working hat guy to get me to meet him. So that and hat guy's not my only connection. I will be working multiple connections in places. I will travel. I don't care. I just want to have the chance to meet him, and I'm going to have him sign my arm, my chest, something, and I'm going straight to a tattoo parlor, and I'm getting a tattoo.
All right.
But
All right.
whatever,
So
we are way off
speaking of,
topic. This has gone a long time.
we're at 80. Yeah. Let's wrap this one up.
Yeah,
So I said 3-1 France. What do you got?
George Best is a good call.
Yeah, he
I
is.
will say 2-1 Argentina.
All right. I hope you're right. You're going to be wrong. You usually are, but I hope you're right.
I'm prepared for it to not happen, but man, it just seems like the stars are aligning, and I hope it's the case because God damn, do I want him to get a World Cup?
Yeah.
He
Hey,
deserves it. He needs one.
he does.
Just give it to him. Like he's earned it with with everything else he's done in his career. Like, come on.
All right. So we coming back? Are we doing this again sometime
Mm.
soon?
Yeah, I don't know when we'll be back. I don't. Who the hell knows these days? Like we
I
talked,
feel
the
like I
two
feel
of
like
us
we need to
talked
make.
about it. We talked to Pat about it, and he's like, blah, 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 maybe I could do it. And so like we hold off and we hold off and we hold off, and then he like bails. And then we're like, okay, well we'll do it tomorrow. And then so like that's why we aren't around more often. Yeah, so go harass Pat. Tell him to
And,
get his ass over here because we harass him, but he just like stops responding
and just what?
if he wants to hide too much.
Just keep
He'll
hitting
hate
up.
that we're talking about this, and I love it so much.
Just keep hitting. Just keep hitting up at USFanTV. Tell Chris we need to do a show, and eventually we'll figure something out.
Yeah, like we started this channel as a way to just because this is like the conversations the three of us had anyway. We still have all these conversations. We just do it over text, and then we make like TJ and I will make jokes or like comments like, "Okay, Pat, are you gonna show up?" And then he doesn't do it.
So, yep.
So
Keep giving him shit.
yeah, you guys
Maybe
harass him, and on that note, we are US Fan TV. You can find us US Fan TV. I don't even think we have a website anymore because Pat was in charge of running that, and I think he killed it for
yeah, he probably
us.
did. So
So I'm
Twitter
still
feed
on
at
Twitter. You can find us there. Once in a while, I post something to Reddit to Instagram. We're not on Reddit. We're not on Snapchat. Cause fuck Snapchat.
do you have your own Twitter feed anymore?
No. Well, yes. I have multiple Twitter feeds, but they're all kind of professional now. I don't have my like soccer one anymore.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Twitter.
So
So if
if
any
you
of
want
you
to
guys
find
followed
him
me, you
at
don't follow
US
me
Fan
anymore.
TV, I'm at TJ Zaremba. You can find us there. We don't we do we do Snapchat?
Who
No, we don't do
cares? Who
Snapchat.
cares? You know where to find us, or you don't, or whatever. You don't care.
Harass us
Yeah.
enough.
On
We'll
that,
be back.
anything else, TJ?
Nah, let's get out of here. Call it a night.
All right, you're
We're
done.
done.